New records for COVID in the UK, the highest number of daily cases since the pandemic began, and an estimated 1.7 million are reported to have had the virus on a single day last week. Millions around the world face travel disruption over Christmas as the surge in Omicron variant cases sees flights cancelled due to staff shortages. United Airlines says it's contacting impacted passengers ahead of them coming to the airport. At least 39 people have been killed after a packed ferry caught fire in southern Bangladesh. The number of casualties is likely to increase as many of the passengers have severe burns. The former South Korean President Park Geun-hye is to be granted a pardon by the government. Ms Park was impeached and removed from office in 2017 and jailed for 22 years on corruption charges.
The Federal Aviation Administration has proposed fixes to prevent engine coverings from breaking apart on certain Boeing 777 planes, which would allow them to return to service. The aircraft were effectively grounded after an engine failure on a United Airlines jet in February. Boeing said it supports the FAA's guidance and will work with engine maker Pratt & Whitney. President Biden plans to run for re-election in 2024 if he remains healthy. In an interview with ABC News, Biden added that he would be more likely to run if former President Donald Trump is the Republican nominee. Trump has said he is seriously considering another run for president, but hasn't made a decision. A Trump spokeswoman didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. Elon Musk's recent spree of selling Tesla shares has topped $15 billion, according to regulatory filings. The string of share sales followed the CEO's poll of Twitter users last month about reducing his holdings in the company. The moves come as Democrats are aiming to raise the capital gains tax that applies to stock sales. Markets in Asia ended higher and European shares rose in early trading. In the U.S., investors will be watching household spending numbers, new home sales, and weekly jobless figures due out this morning.
Tokyo has reported its first Omicron infection likely linked to community transmission. The news follows similar cases involving the contagious variant in Osaka and Kyoto.
4 people were confirmed to have the Omicron variant on Friday. One of them has no history of overseas travel, and we have not been able to confirm how the person contracted the virus. So we believe this is a community-acquired infection.
The infected person works as a doctor at a Tokyo clinic. 5 people who work or live with the person were designated close contacts, all tested negative. Tokyo's governor called for more testing so people who are infected can be quickly isolated and treated. She urged anyone with symptoms, including a cough or fever, to see a doctor right away. Authorities across Japan confirmed 302 new coronavirus infections on Friday. The nationwide case count of the Omicron variant is at least 226. Japan's government has approved an oral COVID-19 drug developed by U.S. pharmaceutical firm Merck. The health ministry plans to have molnupiravir ready for patients nationwide as early as next week. Merck says a clinical trial shows the drug reduced the risk of hospitalization or death by about 30%. It becomes the first oral medicine in Japan designed to prevent patients from developing severe symptoms. Those who can receive molnupiravir must be at least 18 years old, have mild or moderate symptoms, and be at risk of becoming seriously ill. It will not be prescribed for pregnant women.
We have high hopes of improving access to treatments and preventing people from becoming seriously ill amid concerns about the virus.
The ministry has secured supplies for 1.6 million patients. Sufficient doses for 200,000 people will be provided this year. Japan will not send a government delegation to the Beijing Winter Games, but will dispatch 3 Olympic and Paralympic officials. Foreign Minister Hayashi Yoshimasa spoke exclusively to NHK World about the decision, which follows international calls for a diplomatic boycott.
Can we say this is a diplomatic boycott?
Government of Japan doesn't intend to use any specific term to describe our response.
The United States was the first nation to decide not to send its top diplomats to Beijing. It pointed to alleged human rights abuses in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Hayashi said Japan is likewise concerned about the allegations.
How will the Japanese government specifically respond to China's human rights issues?
I think it is very important that universal values in the international community such as freedom, respect for fundamental human rights, and the rule of law are also guaranteed in China. Japan has directly conveyed this position to China at various levels, including myself.
Hayashi says the issue has been a recurring theme at recent multinational meetings, and he hopes that will continue.
We think it's very important for the international community to continue to work closely together to strongly urge China for its actions.
Australia, Britain, and Canada have announced diplomatic boycotts of the upcoming games. Russia, meanwhile, dismissed the calls and instead pledged support to China. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian has responded to the Japanese government's decision by pointing out his country's backing of the Tokyo Games in the summer.
We hope Japan follows through on its promise to commit to mutual support of each other's Olympics without politicizing sports.
Zhao also said China welcomes the participation of Japanese Olympic officials and athletes at the Games. New video footage of a Sri Lankan woman who died at an immigration facility in Japan has been disclosed to her family. Wishma Sandamali died in March at the facility in Nagoya, central Japan. She was 33. She was held in detention there for overstaying her visa. The Immigration Services Agency released a final report in August admitting that the facility lacked a system for providing proper medical care to detainees. On Friday, one of Wishma's sisters and lawyers watched part of a surveillance video showing Wishma at the facility. It's the second time video clips of her have been released. They say the video shows Wishma repeatedly asking officials to take her to a hospital or allow her to receive an intravenous drip. They also say that in the video, Wishma appears to have difficulty sitting up in bed when an official tries to get her to take medicine 2 days before she died. Wishma's sister says Wishma repeatedly claimed she wasn't lying about her condition, but officials ignored her pleas. Her family intends to sue the government. They've asked to see all the video covering her detention. Meanwhile, lawmakers on the Lower House Judicial Affairs Committee watched some parts of the surveillance video. They agreed to continue to discuss possible reform of the Immigration Services Agency. South Korea is granting a special pardon to ousted President Park Geun-hye. She's currently serving 22 years in prison for corruption and abuse of power. Park was thrown out of office in 2017 in the midst of a scandal that also saw the de facto leader of Samsung imprisoned. The country's first female president was found guilty of pressuring firms to pay substantial money to foundations owned by a longtime friend. Park fought the conviction, but South Korea's top court upheld her lengthy sentence. President Moon Jae-in said that officials considered how Park's health has deteriorated during her nearly 5 years behind bars. She was hospitalized last month. Her predecessor, Lee Myung-bak, is also imprisoned on corruption charges. He was not pardoned. Japanese weather officials are warning of heavy snowfall in wide areas along the Sea of Japan starting on Saturday. They say the snow could cause traffic disruption. The meteorological agency says a strong cold air mass will flow into Japan on Saturday and bring large amounts of snow, mainly to coastal areas. Up to 90 centimeters of snow is expected to fall in the 24 hours from Saturday evening. The air mass is expected to move south toward the Pacific side of western Japan and may accumulate in the Kyushu and Shikoku regions. The winter pressure pattern is expected to continue until around Tuesday.